So you may have heard that there is colder, snowier weather coming towards the UK, and there has been a signal for that over the past few weeks, but things have changed, and although it is set to turn colder across the UK, the signal for snow is somewhat limited. Now, first of all, let's have a look at the big picture. So there's been a signal for cold easterly winds to move into the UK, and we will still see some of that as we head into next week. We've got cold air building across Eastern Europe. That's thanks to a big area of high pressure. There's not a lot of sunlight here at this time of year. It's quite typical for this time of year. And there are signals that we will start to see some of that, that cold air move towards the UK. But what's also happening is some very cold weather is developing across eastern areas of the USA. You can see that here, these deep blue colours. It's Arctic air moving in to the USA, and they're expecting a major winter storm across eastern parts of the USA. There's winter storm warnings from Texas eastwards, major snow event as well as heavy rain too throughout this weekend. And what that cold air over the USA does is it fires up our jet stream. And now what that is going to do, let's keep the cold air on, you can see it really amplifies and accentuates our jet stream. That's because the contrast between that really cold air coming down from the Arctic and the warmer tropical air, that's what drives the strength of the jet stream. And the jet stream is, of course, a key driver for the UK weather. And over this weekend, it becomes a bigger feature. And what it will do is develop low pressure systems out in the Atlantic. And it's actually going to be quite a south-shifted jet. So that means the low-pressure systems developing across the Atlantic will push into southern areas of the UK. As you can see throughout this weekend, as we play this forward, you can see a series of low-pressure systems developing around the strong jet core, and they ever so slowly come closer to the UK throughout this weekend. Monday, there's a bit of respite, but then the jet stream really fires up, and it's into Tuesday when we could see a fairly notable area of low pressure across the UK. We'll take a closer look at that because that will bring a increased risk of seeing some snow, yes, but also more heavy rain, as well as a chance of some quite strong winds on Tuesday as well across southwestern areas. So this jet stream continuing to drive Atlantic weather towards us means that we continue to see these westerly winds. That means the colder air from the east never really gets in situ across the UK. We never really tap into that really cold air. And so although there is an increasing risk of snow next week in the UK, it's only really across high levels. We're not expecting any significant low-lying snow into next week, and that's because the air is just not going to be cold enough. But there is a chance, as well as seeing some heavy rain and some strong winds, and it's Tuesday's low-pressure system that we need to take a closer look at. So turn the jet stream off. So it's this area of low pressure. Now it's Tuesday, it's still 5 or so days away, and so there's still some uncertainty with the exact shape of this area of low pressure. Some signals though show it could be quite a deep area of low pressure, and it's likely to move up from the south and west, but the position of this area of low pressure could be as far west as towards the Republic of Ireland, or it could be shifted further south into parts of France. So in France they could see some heavy rain as well instead of across the UK. But the most likely scenario at the moment is for a relatively deep area of low pressure to drive up from the south and west, bringing with it spells of wet weather and windy weather up across more central areas of the UK. Now, there will be some colder air in situ across more northern areas. Monday is actually looking like quite a cold day, and we will see some snow across the high ground on Monday. But as this area of low pressure bumps into that cold air, that's when we will potentially see some transient snow over the high ground. But we're also going to see some very heavy rain too. Let's take a closer look at the details for Tuesday and Monday, first of all. So on Monday, we see this weather front push through And as that bumps into the cold air that we've got on Monday, you can see the whites here showing snow over the high ground, the Peak District, the Pennines, all the way up into the high ground of Scotland, the Lake District too, also seeing some snow. And then it's this next area of low pressure that could potentially be quite deep that then brings a chance of some snow, but also very heavy rain to southern and western areas. But again, you can see that white there showing a risk of snow over parts of the high ground in northern areas. How much snow could we see? Well, for snow to fall, you need the air to be cold enough. So this shows you the freezing level across the UK as we look further ahead. So we'll just jump ahead to next week. So for snow to fall, you need the temperature to be 0 degrees. So this is the height of 0 degrees above sea level. So the height at which rain would fall as snow, or snow would turn to rain. And so you can see here that onto Sunday, it's starting to get colder. Monday, when we see that initial weather front come through, the freezing level is about 400 metres. And so any rain would fall as snow still above around 400 metres. And then when we get that low pressure system, it's also bringing in quite a lot of mild air actually from the south and west, from the Atlantic. So that's going to lift the freezing level itself as well. So although the freezing level is quite low to start with across Scotland, it actually increases as the day goes on across more southern areas. You can see as this area of low pressure comes up, we start to see that freezing level around 1,000 metres actually, where we're close to this area of low pressure, but on the top edge of it, it's closer to 600 metres, 400 metres in some places. So that does mean that snow is only really likely over the high ground. We can see how much snow is expected. This is the snowfall totals throughout next week. So when we see that weather front come through on Monday, a chance of some snow over the highest ground in North Wales, as well as the Peak District, the Pennines, all the way up through Scotland. This is the highest snowfall totals would be across parts of northeastern Scotland, the Grampians, where they've actually had quite a lot of snow this week as a result of the persistent rain. And then on Tuesday, it's very similar areas that would likely see some further snow, as well as the high ground in Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland too. So the Lake District also seeing some. So it's really about 400 metres. That's what we're expecting at the moment. As I mentioned, snow is a factor that we're thinking about into next week, but it's actually the rain that we will be focusing mostly. Because we've had a really wet week this week, we've had some strong winds as well, and we are expecting further heavy rain into next week as well. Let's just get the right data up there. So on Tuesday, by the end of Monday, we'll see some heavy rainfall totals, particularly across southwestern England, but also it's northeastern England, very similar areas to where we've seen the heavy rain already this week. So it's places that are already saturated. They're expected to see further heavy rainfall. And then by the end of Tuesday as well, these are we want the 24-hour totals. Here we go, that's better. So it's by the end of Tuesday, it's southwestern areas of Wales, southwestern England, as well as northeastern Scotland and Northern Ireland. Now these areas are already saturated, as I mentioned, but we're also likely to see some quite strong winds with this area of low pressure as well, particularly across the southwest. And there's been some recent very wet and windy weather. Storm Goretti brought major impacts to Cornwall. We've had further windy weather. We've got Storm Ingrid at the moment, also bringing strong winds down to the southwest. Further trees are coming down just today, bringing disruption. And so we don't need the gusts to actually be that high for further impacts across southwestern areas. And as the ground becomes more saturated, that actually allows trees to come down more easily as well because of the looser soil. So these are all impacts that we're looking at. And so next week, yes, it is turning colder. Yes, we will see an increased likelihood of snow. It's not going to be to low levels, and we do need to keep a watch on the rainfall totals because it's looking like it's going to be another pretty wet and windy week.